Hello and welcome everyone. Psst, it's me, Calebovitsch, coming to you with another episode of Deck Check. Now this episode you could say is kind of a fan request, not from one specific person, but from some people who were asking me over the last couple of days or weeks if I had any deck in Eternal card game based around a card called At Any Cost from the newest Argent Depths expansion. And I had not, but now I do. And I'm going to show it to you, well, now. At Any Cost is a new Shadow Legendary spell that costs 3 and has a 4 Shadow Influence requirement. It's a fast spell with Decay and Lifesteal that deals 3 damage, but if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 Shadow Influence, this spell deals 12 damage instead. 12 damage, that's a lot. But 12 Shadow Influence is also a lot. And you might have seen, if you have paid any attention to decks and metagame from, coming after the release of Argent Depths, is that Influence is at its best these days. We have gotten cool new power cards, such as the Symbols, Vows, and Silexes, or also known as Calebovitch, or Goblets. But all of those cards give us ways and means of ramping up our influence that much more. So in case of this, the goal was to get up to 12 Shadow Influence as soon as possible, and it doesn't have to be a mono Shadow deck. And, well, I thought to myself, okay, what if we do this in Feln, because that is Primal Shadow, because that color combination has the card Forbidden Research. That is a fast spell for 4 with a double Primal requirement that says draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards, and then gain 2 Justice or 2 Shadow Influence. In this case, 2 Shadow Influence, and this is a fast spell. So if you brew together a Feln deck, you can use this card to ramp up your Shadow Influence. And given that At Any Cost is a finisher, it is a spell that deals damage as a finisher, that's why I dubbed this deck, what if Spellcrag was actually Feln? And, well, that's the question that I would like to answer. So let's get at it starting from At Any Cost. So, yeah, as just a removal spell, this is a good one because, well, due to Decay, this 3 damage that At Any Cost is dealing permanently reduces the attack and health or armor of units and relic weapons it damages. So it just takes care of some units or weapons permanently. So they don't revenge, so you cannot get them back from your void, etc, etc, etc. So in order to win with this deck, usually you have to play this card several times, or play it, well, hopefully with the full Shadow amount. So first couple of additions to the deck were Reread, draw a spell from your void, it gets void bound, it is a primal spell that costs 2. But also the Spellcrag staple, Prodigious Sorcery, the 5 costing double primal fast spell that draws you 2 spells that deal damage from your void, and also on Decimate, those spells get double damage permanently. So starting and branching off of At Any Cost into Reread and Prodigious Sorcery, I started to get an idea. Well, for Prodigious Sorcery, it would also be cool if we had some other spells that dealt damage. And here we have 4 copies of Hailstorm, the 3 costing double primal spell that deals 3 damage to each unit, and is a very good sweeper in Primal. It is probably the best sweeper in Primal. But also we can get our market card in this way, and that is Transpose, a 1 costing primal fast spell that deals 2 damage to the enemy player. You gain an Aegis, so you're immune or kind of immune to stuff like Royal Decree or Rain of Frogs. Oh, I hate Rain of Frogs. But also you may swap a card from your hand with a 4-cost card in your market, and, well, the market is here to enhance your whole game plan. So that is one way of branching out from At Any Cost. That is the end effect. Okay, so that is dealing damage. Now, how do we gain influence? And how do we gain a lot of influence? Well, here's a couple of ways. I've shown you the first one, Forbidden Research. You just play this Primal spell, and well, this is not huge card advantage because it draws 3, then discards 2, but you have to play this as a card, so it's well, kind of replaces itself, but also can just loot through your hand, and I'm gonna get to that in a moment. But also, there are the shadow symbols out there. This is a new kind of power that comes into play depleted, and you gain 2 of an influence. In this case, it is shadow. Also, when it comes to gaining a whole lot of influence, you have Carve It Redeemed, the 5 costing single shadow Nightmare Dragon. It's a 6/6 flyer for 5 with a very low requirement, and this makes Carve It a very good finisher in this deck as well. When Carve It deals damage, you gain Fire, Primal, Shadow Influence. So each time Carve It deals damage, it ramps you up by 1 shadow. I mean, that's the most obvious one. Also, at the end of each player's turn, Carve It deals 1 damage to them. So this means you play Carve It, end of your turn, if opponent doesn't kill it somehow, or silence it in fast speed, Carve It deals 1 damage to you, unfortunately. But you already gain 3 influence. Then at the end of the opponent's turn, Carve It deals 1 damage to them, you gain 3 influence. Then on your turn, you attack with Carve It, you deal damage to your opponent or a blocker or something like that, and you gain 3 influence, etc, etc, etc. So Carve It and Shadow Symbols and Forbidden Research and drawing a lot of cards, including but not limited to a lot of cards that give you Shadow, well, that is your way of ramping up to 12 Shadow. But it's not gonna be a fast process, but it is doable. I mean, if you play Carve It on turn 5, then on turn 6 or 7, you can have your powered up at any cost. So all of this means that this, in its heart, should be a control deck. Okay? Alright, so that's one. Now let's take a look at another card that I've already shown you and see some synergies we can achieve with that one. And that is Forbidden Research. I mean, usually you would play Honor of Claws in this slot, that is, draw 3 cards, then discard 1 card. Forbidden Research is slightly worse because it discards you 2 cards, but it gives you 2 Shadow, which is the most important part of Forbidden Research more often than not, and it is also a fast spell. So how can we turn this disadvantage into not so huge of a disadvantage, or maybe even an advantage? So we can do that by having a lot of Fate and or Echo cards. I mean, cards that when you draw them, they either copy themselves or they give you another card. They allow you to create and draw an additional card. So for that you have Jotun Hurler, the 5 costing Primal 3/3 giant. And you're almost never playing him for just the body, but you're playing him for the Fate effect. When you draw Jotun Hurler, you create and draw a Snowball. And the Snowball can be used to get rid of some small units like Trail Makers or Hojans or a lot of other stuff. But usually this means that if you draw Jotun Hurler, you're actually drawing 2 cards. So if, for example, Forbidden Research draws you a Jotun Hurler and 2 other cards, then you can discard Hurler and the Snowball, and you get to keep the other 2 cards. And obviously you ramp up your Shadow Influence. Another, this time not Fate, but Echo card is Herald Song, the 2 costing single Primal spell with Echo that says draw a card, then discard a card. At its base, Herald Song is just a simple redraw. It's a simple draw effect for 2, because, well, you have Herald Song and a copy of Herald Song, right? That's the one card that you have drawn. So you're spending half a card, so to say, to draw a card. Then you discard the second half, the second copy of Herald Song, and you're kind of even on cards. If you discard something else, well, then the Herald Song, filters through your deck, obviously, but it starts producing a slight card disadvantage in order for you to search for the cards that you're looking for. Also, all of this card draw in this deck means that you are much more probable to draw into your at any costs and produce your sorceries and your Shadow Influence. So these are 2 ways for you to gain multiple cards to discard with that Forbidden Research. But also there is a very cool interaction that is the base of the Feln color combination from the Flame of Zolta. I mean, Felrog is even the face of the expansion when it comes to this tooltip. Felrog the Outcast, the 6 costing triple Primal, triple Shadow Unseen. It's a 5/2, which is a very strange stat line, but the ability both abilities of this card are just amazing. The first one states that if you have the required influence, which is 3 Primal and 3 Shadow, if Felrog is discarded, play him from your void. I mean, if he gets void bound or in one way or another, you can't play stuff from your void, then this doesn't do anything. But usually, well, you just play Forbidden Research, you discard Felrog, you play Felrog, because, well, this deck is all about gaining tons and tons of influence. Also, on summon, the enemy player discards a card from their hand, then discards its cost in cards from the top of their deck, which means it mills them for some, which usually doesn't have a huge effect in this deck unless they scouted something to the top. Now, the coolest part about Felrog in this specific deck is that you can play Forbidden Research, that is, draw and discard, as a fast spell. So, end of your opponent's turn, you can do Forbidden Research, discard, and play 2 Felrogs and attack the opponent for 10. I did not do the whole science about when you discard the cards, when you gain influence, but my best guess is that you discard Felrog first, then you gain the influence, which means if you play Forbidden Research without having triple Primal and triple Shadow already and discard Felrog, you will probably be not able to play him from your void. I had an option of testing this science, but I did not during the playthrough of the games because I just wanted to win a game instead of doing science. But my best guess is that you will not be able to do that. You will gain the Shadow influence after Felrog gets discarded. Alright, so those are the main combos within the deck. Now, aside from that, we need some removal and some card draw because this is a control deck. So as far as removal goes, we have 4 copies of Permafrost, the one costing Primal Curse that stuns the cursed unit for as long as it is cursed. Remember that this doesn't work on endurance units, and when a unit gains endurance for a moment, then the curse falls off, etc., etc. 3 copies of Reread, I believe I already talked about them. They draw you a spell from your void. Even if you draw something like a Herald Song, well, then you're echoing and drawing a second copy. Both are void bound. But also, as you can see, 34 spells in the deck, so yes, you will be able to get some of them back. 4 copies of Strategize, one of my favorite blue card draws because it allows you to keep some otherwise sketchy 2-power hands because it draws you even deeper into your deck. It is a 2-costing Primal spell that draws you 2 cards, but then you have to put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And it could be half a card if you count a Herald Song or if you count a Jotun Hurler, something like that. Also, 4 copies of Turn to Seed, currently my favorite Primal removal, the 3-costing double Primal spell. You get to choose an enemy unit, and then you get to transform it and each enemy copy into 0-2 seeds, including from their hand, deck, and void. And what's not clearly stated on this, each enemy copy that also means in play. So you just get to nerf an opposing unit and all subsequent copies of it. But remember, Little Seed, after 5 turns, it grows into a 5/7 Overwhelmer, and that is where Turn to Seed and Hailstorm come into full effect, both of them. Last but not least, just 2 copies of Wisdom of the Elders. This is the 3-costing double Primal fast spell that draws you 2 cards. Well, theoretically, it is much better than Forbidden Research because it's cheaper and it provides you with higher card advantage. But as I said, Forbidden Research is here to ramp you up. As far as the power base of this deck goes, it is rather a strange one because as you can see on this pie chart over here, more than 3/4 of the deck is actually Primal, and Shadow is kind of just the splash. But it is a very strange splash because, well, while we're splashing it for 4 copies of a single Shadow unit, we are also splashing it for triple Shadow unit and the 12 Shadow effect. So, at any cost? No, this is just a splash. It's just a splash. I have done a couple of previous iterations of this deck, but this is my current one. In the previous ones, you could have seen, instead of Feln Vows, you could have seen some Feln Seeds of Cunning. Also, one of the versions had just 5 Shadow Sigils instead of 3 Shadow and 2 Primal Sigils. But I wanted to play the Vows and the Insignia to be able to play non-depleted power at all times. And well, Feln Vow and 2 Primal Sigils because we have cards that cost 2 Primal in the deck. Also, in some of the previous versions, especially the Mono Shadow ones, I was running Zombie Icarias and some other cards. At one point I was running a couple of Backlashes, and you're probably going to see some of those cards in the playthroughs. But let me finish this long talk with talking about the market. So in the market, I mean, in this deck, market is filled to the brim, and I don't have enough space here for a lot of cards, honestly. I don't have spots for Burglarize and some other cards, but what we can fit in here is Honor of Claws, the 4-costing single primal spell that draws you 3 cards, then you get to discard a card. And on a neutral board state, if you're just playing Transpose on turn 3, you can just grab this and put in the market a Jotun Hurler, a Snowball, or a Herald Song, or something like that, or something uncastable. And then, well, you just play Honor of Claws and get your card advantage. Get your card advantage right here. 1 copy of Malediction. Now, these are technically Hailstorms 5 through 7. This is a 4-costing double shadow spell that says each unit gets -3/-3 this turn. Effectively, this is almost the same as Hailstorm, but, well, there you go. 1 copy of Rain of Frogs to take action against combo decks and control decks. The 4-costing single primal spell that says choose a non-power card from the enemy player's hand, transform each copy in their hand, deck, and void into 1/1 Frogs with Destiny. And they have to play Frog Row, womp womp. Silverblade Menace, the 4-costing double shadow 3/3 flyer, Nightmare Valkyrie, that on summon you get to deal damage to the enemy player equal to the number of spells in their void, and you gain that much health. This could be a finisher or half a finisher against control decks and spell heavy decks, obviously. And usually in this deck we would have spot for In Cold Blood or a Fel Ritual or something like that, or a Death Strike even. But here we have Stealth Strike. This is something strange and something different, and I haven't tested it out thoroughly, but this has promise, because this is a 4-costing single primal fast spell with Revenge that deals 2 damage to an enemy. Could be a sight, could be the enemy player, could be one of their units, but also if you have at least 6 Shadow Influence, this spell has Deadly, which means it kills any unit it hits. It deals damage to, rather. And given that we want to ramp up to 12 Shadow, 6 Shadow shouldn't be a problem. Really shouldn't be a problem. So, when it comes to at any cost, obviously, you could make a mono shadow deck. Plain and simple, and just play 4 symbols and a lot of other of these effects, like 4 Carvets anyway, and just be done with that. But I wanted to go for something else. I wanted to turn Spellcrag into Feln spell. Spelln? Feln? I don't know. You would have to coin a better name. For me, this is what if Spellcrag was Feln. Now, enough theory. Now, just let me show you 4 games that I've played with this deck a couple of days ago. And for game number 1, we have Shimra, the one with double M, not the one with double R. And this hand is kind of slow, but it is also a keeper. We have 3 symbols and a Feln insignia, which means we are already up to 7 Shadow Influence, potentially. And we have a cool turn to play with Strategize. So yes, this hand is promising. Also, Turn to Seed is a very good answer early game to, well, any and all threats, unit-wise. Now we just have to wait for the opponent to make their first move in a Crest of Mystery. This is not a mystery. A lot of people are playing Xenon in a couple of different versions these days, myself among them, at least as far as the ECQ goes. That is happening at the weekend, during the weekend of recording this. I am between day 1 and day 2 of the ECQ. Well, and by the time you watch this video, well, maybe I have won the ECQ, who knows. Yeah, this is one of the older versions of the deck with still Icaria First Reaper, aka Zombie Icaria or Zicaria. So, yeah. And up to 4 shadow symbols, which means we will get at any cost rather fast. I discarded Zombie Icaria because, well, right now I have no way of casting it for the longest of times. Wasteland Broker. And that means that the opponent could be running an even-handed version of the deck. Now here's a small problem, as I don't have second Primal for Forbidden Research. That's why I'm just casting Reread on Strategize and trying to draw into another blue source. And there we go, Feln Insignia. So I think I can move one of the symbols down, or a Permafrost, or a Hailstorm, probably Hailstorm, yeah. And that's what I'm doing, because I can stop one kind of a unit with Turn to Seed and another with just a Permafrost. Gentle Grazier, main phase. Into Curtain Call. Sure, that's not the best of hits for the opponent, but at least they can attack us for 6 and gain 6 as well. So yes, I'm going for another one of these and turning the Grazier to Seed so the opponent cannot get any card advantage, and freezing the 4/5. Insta Revenge, that must be huge skill from the opponent. So they will be able to attack me for 2 with Little Seed and gain 2 more health. Beseech the Throne, sure. That's an option. Now I will gladly play Carve It and a symbol. Be up to 9, at the end of my turn up to 10. Shadow Influence. Yes, soon. Another Wasteland Broker, trying to top deck something. And 1 damage for the opponent. Sure. Now I could go for Shadow Symbol, but I could also go just for Crest of Cunning, because here we get a Scout as well. And no, we don't need another one of these. And I will probably just discard 2 Herald Songs with Forbidden Research. I could also just play one, but I thought better of it. And right now it's turn 7 and we are up to 14 Shadow Influence, so that is quite good. Yeah, so let's go for the Research. Hopefully I can draw another one or a Reread. Transpose, there's a second at any cost. So yeah, discarding both of the Herald Songs and gaining the Shadow Influence. Could also just play Transpose on the opponent, switch the power into anything, honestly. 1 damage for the opponent. Yes, we attack, because right now we can kill the opponent on fast speed, so honestly I don't need to do anything. I can just perma-freeze their 4/5 and give the turn back, and if the opponent does something well, then I can play those 2. If the opponent is down to 1 power, this is the best possible moment to deal 24 damage to them, seal the first game, and go on to the next game. Now before this game I put 1 copy of Backlash main deck. Just telling you why you can see it here. As I said, I was in the middle of just testing a lot of stuff in the deck. And, well, this is only a 2-power hand, but we do have a Scout, we have a Strategize, we have Herald Song, so we can probably draw into more power. That is also why this deck is only running 25 power with a lot of card draw and without any Seek powers or such other power searchers. Now, first turn, let me start on the crest and try to grab a power. Nope, you are not a power. You are not necessary here. Another Xenon deck. How quaint. Another Herald Song. Well, that might come in handy. I mean, Forbidden Research just discards 2 copies of that, being 1 card technically. So yes. Gonna go for Strategize. Probably put one of the Herald Songs to the bottom, especially that we have a ton of them. And I should go for Crest instead of the other one, just in case I draw Felrog. Additional cards, we don't need them right now. We can bottom that. We have tons and tons of copies of cards to ditch with Forbidden Research. And well, yeah, that is also why I'm playing Shadow Sigil, because if I Forbidden Research at the end of opponent's turn, I will probably in the next 4 cards draw into a non-depleted power source to be able to play Carve It. That's at least my hope. And there is one. Jotun Hurler is almost never getting played. That's why he was going to the Void first. Shadow Sigil, Carve It. If opponent can't kill Carve It now, we are gaining 1 influence already, so we will be up to 8 on turn 5. Opponent's turn 9, our turn 11, end of our turn 12. So on end of our turn 6, we already could have up to 11 shadow influence. Sorry, 12 shadow influence. Opponent is going for Damara. And they took Silverblade Menace. It also means that was an empty turn from the opponent. And here I could just attack them. Yep. We have Backlash as backup. So I can play Crest of Cunning, because I will either deal 1 damage to myself at the end of the turn or play Feln Insignia. So there is that. And right now, what it's looking like is 6 damage to the opponent during the attack, and at any cost with Backlash backup. So looks pretty solved. Even if they play Silverblade Menace, that's not a lot of things going on. And that is also why we want to attack the opponent right now. Banish. Yeah, we can Backlash Banish. Scorpion Wasp. Well, we cannot do much for Scorpion Wasp, but the opponent is down to 15, and if you count correctly, we have 1 from Snowball, we have 2 from Transpose, 12 more from at any cost, and that is right around 15. Exact lethal. It doesn't matter what we take. What matters is we play at any cost, All right, on to game number 3. At this point, I was playing the version that you saw in the deck explanation, and this is one of the best possible hands. We have our kill card, we have Strategize, we have a Hailstorm, we have a Scout, we have all the power and influence, and at this point I was thinking, do I need banners or do I need seats? And I think maybe seats are better, so I probably misguided you in the beginning. I will have to change the deck list after. Alright, so we start on Scouting. Herald Song is good because we can ditch one of those copies with Strategize to the bottom of the deck. And yeah, I think banners should be seats, so never mind. Oh look, another Xenon. This time it's Xenon hand. I mean, even-handed Xenon. Even Xenon? Even Steven? Oh well, let's just play Strategize and take a Herald Song down to the bottom of the deck. Ephemeral Wisp. Well, technically we can take care of it with stuff like At Any Cost because it decays, or with, what was the other one? Turn to Seed. So yeah, we have some options of getting rid of that. Not that we need to right now. And you gotta be careful because the opponent is watching. Probably a Herald Song to the bottom, yeah, especially that I drew 2 more. And this should be Crest to Scout. No, we don't need it right now. Vara, Vengeance Seeker, that's a good Turn to seed target. And that's another card that is fated and or echoed. So you can see card advantage aplenty. Those are bad cards, but them alongside card draw provide us with a true card draw. And yeah, just in case I went with that power to have transpose up. If banner was a seat, then there would be no problem. I would have just played seat and be okay with that. As it stands, we are taking 1 damage, and I will be transposing end of turn, getting rid of Jotun Feast Caller and grabbing, I don't remember, but something probably. Probably something like Rain of Frogs to slow the opponent down. Little Seeds, Curtain Call, Annihilate. Well, Annihilate is not gonna do them much good, so let's get rid of those curtain calls. Sure. Yes, play all of them into the Hailstorm. Into the Hailstorm. So let's shrink the Broker. They have a couple of Annihilates in hand. Play Hailstorm, get rid of everything. And get ready for a slow game and long game. We do have a reread and a couple of those Herald songs and a Scout, so we should be able to draw into something quite soon. And we know opponent has 2 dead cards in hand. I opted to strategize first and then to go for Crest of Cunning. And Jotun Hurler is worth much less than Herald Song, so that is why he is the one going to the bottom. At any cost, yes, that's a very good card to draw. And given that I don't have any Felrogs anywhere near, I opted not to go for a Herald Song. Vara's Favor, sure, we're not taking damage. Opponent is just drawing a Shadow Sigil. Now I could go for a reread into probably Strategize. Nope, it was Rain of Frogs. Let's rain those frogs on the opponent. No Annihilates, but there is an Icaria. Alright, that was a great catch. I mean, there's the fact that we saw opponents scouting and putting a card on the top, and they had a depleted power and didn't play that card, so that probably was something that they wanted to play but not straight away, and that is why I went for this play. Now I remember. Now I remember what was going through my head at the time. Yeah, I kept a banner because, well, we still need to get up to 12 Shadow for those at any costs. Turn to seed on that small one, I don't think so. We can ditch Permafrost or the card that we draw. Sure, we can ditch Hurler. We don't need him right now. And that's what he's good for. Getting forgotten. And you can see this is a control deck. That's why it's taking such a long time. This time at least. Draw 2. One of them is a Prodigious Sorcery. The other one is a 4th at any cost. But what this means is without 12 Shadow, if we play 3 of these, that's 9 damage down to 15. And a Prodigious Sorcery on 2 of them means additional 12 damage. So that would get the opponent down to 3 health. So we don't have the kill yet. We would need a Carved Swing or another Reread or another Prodigious Sorcery to be able to do that. But this also provides us with, as you can see, a ton of card removal in Permafrost and Turn to Seed and what the heck is that? Severin of the Dark. I should have at any cost of that because the opponent is right now gaining health. But yeah, we're gonna turn Severin to Seed. Opponent doesn't have power up for the Annihilate. Sure, let's do this. And this is also why Turn to Seed is one of really amazing removal cards right now. Okay, so with a hailstorm and a snowball, we can get rid of everything on the board. So that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, that stop is at least for the 2 annihilates they have. Wasteland Broker. Sure. Another Hurley McHurlston. Let's freeze that. I even opted to play the Hurler, just to get some beats in on the opponent. Yes, they do have those annihilates, and I shouldn't have done this. Just kept it as a card to discard off of a Herald Song. Soulbringer into Twin Spitling for another one of those, but we once again have Hailstorm and a Snowball. Grabbing Shadow. Sure. Still need 4 more Shadow Influence to be able to kill the opponent with our damaging Shadow spells. Slow and steady, slow and steady. Yikes, that's a problem. Okay, so they're getting it up to 8 and drawing a card. I opted to not do anything, but I should have played at least 1 at any cost on that. So as to not take that much damage. I also really want to go for that transpose. And I would have had Jotun Hurler to take out to the market right now. I should have done it during the attack. That way I would have had 6 more health, but that's on me. That is indeed on me. Well, we have the Stealth Strike, we have Honor of Claws, and I think I should go for Honor of Claws here. Deal 4 to the opponent. Switch Shadow Sigil for Honor of Claws. Play it. Discard Felrog because we can. And they're killing Felrog in response to the effect, sure. The effect goes off, they discard a card, that's probably going to be Annihilate, yes, and I can Hailstorm the Giant away. So the opponent doesn't have threat, that draws them cards and grows. Well, there's that. Now how much damage I can deal? Oh my goodness, we are 1 Shadow Influence off of having a ton of damage here. Another Tuvon. Sure. Of course. That's that Piercing Grief off of Destiny and drawing a card. Another card draw. But I will just go for killing permanently that 3-1, and as I said previously, that was another small mistake in the game, not killing that beforehand. Now Prodigious will bring me back to double damaging at any costs. Right? Right. Hoping to draw a Shadow Source. Any Shadow Source, please. Okay. Now I also need a power, a non-depleted power. There's the Vow. Okay, so we discard this and research. And play the Vow. Skip that, you don't have to. And deal 24 with 1 spell. And we had another 24 in hand, so down to -25. Okay, okay. Let's get on to game number 4. Cuddles. Oh. Alright, so we have 2 power and 2 strategizes, which should be enough to be able to draw into 3rd and 4th power. Unfortunately, both Primal Sigils are already here, but it's still power. Yay, shadow symbols. So I think I can take the Primal Sigil to the bottom. No, I opted to go for Forbidden Research because I don't have a lot to discard. No, strategize. Okay. Okay. We need a lot of influence here. Another even-handed deck, oh my goodness. So this whole video is about testing one matchup or a variation of a matchup, because this looks more like Destruction than just Xenon. It's probably an old and even Vox deck. Are you happy, the Voxer? Are you happy? What you've done to the metagame all those months ago. Yeah, Two-Face. Wow, 2 more. 2 more symbols were there. Alright, so let's play the Primal so that I can go Forbidden Research and discard those Herald Songs and hopefully get an undepleted power to play Carve It. Wow, they're playing Vows as well. Sure, another even-handed. Beseech. Okay, I could theoretically draw into Felrauk and block the 1/1. And yes, there is a Felrauk here. So Felrauk and 1 Herald Song are getting discarded, and we are ambushing the opponent. Yeah, sure, they have to discard something. Still a power gone. Power be gone. Found Banner. Now, in this case, Banner was better than Seat. Banner was better. Interesting. And we can deal 5 to the opponent and play Carve It. And it's gonna end pretty soon, something tells me. I mean, remember, Carve It deals 1 at end of our turn, 1 at end of opponent's turn, and 1 on just hitting them. So there is that. And he hits them for 1. And remember, double at any cost is 24 damage, not 25. So that 1 point of damage from Snowball or Carve It or opponent playing a Vow is usually means a lot. Or just could mean a lot. Yeah, so if I attack now, get the opponent down to 12, up to 9 Shadow, play Shadow symbol, up to 11. We could play Strategize as well and put the Herald Song to the bottom. And, well, during the opponent's turn, we will be able to play that for 12. Unfortunately, after Carve It used his ability, we didn't have any further stops to play at any cost. But now we have fast speed opponent removal, so to say. So right now, I'm not pulling the trigger unless I know the opponent cannot do anything. So they would have to play something for at least 5 power. Or, for example, in response to Devour, which gains them health. So while they are still at 12, we are dealing 12 to them. And there you go. There you go. Okay. Enough about the games. Now let's head on back to the studio and talk about the deck some more. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. What if Spellcrag was indeed Feln? And can you splash 12 Shadow into a Primal heavy control deck? And the answer to the second one is yes, and the answer to the first one is here on the rest of the screen. Now, as far as the remaining power goes, what I was pondering throughout the games, do we need 4 Feln banners or do we need 4 Seats of Cunning. And I believe you could go with one or the other. As you have seen in the last game, the fact that we had a banner meant more than if we had a seat, but that was just due to Felrog being ninja'd into play and us drawing a specific card combination. So you can go with banners, you can go with Seats of Cunning, but I believe the rest of the deck looks good as is. I mean, this deck, this deck, this deck did not have a high win percentage, as you probably seen on the right side of the screen. There were a lot of red symbols, more than green symbols at one point or another. But if you want to build a deck around the card at any cost, I believe this is your best bet. Alright, this is going to be it for this deck check. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and remember, if you're enjoying the show and would like to show some support to this channel, click on subscribe. Alright, see ya next week. Calebovitsch out.